the chosen one. From luxury you turned away, and all night you would pray, truthful in every word you say. Muhammad ya Rasulullah.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Hatim Al-Absalam from the Islamic Information Center at the Grand Mosque. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished guest today, Mrs. Batul, Mrs. Sophia, Mrs. Fatima from the UK. Assalamu alaikum, sisters.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, shukran.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Believe me, it's our pleasure to be here.
Alhamdulillah. Just to give a background to our audience, the sisters are from the UK. They came for a special visit to Oman to find out more about Oman and the people of Oman and the culture and the way Islam is practiced in Oman. So we'll start with Sister Batul. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Batul. I was born into a Roman Catholic family in Ireland. 6 girls and 4 boys, mashallah. And my family were Catholic. I was brought up as a Catholic. But in my late teens or early 20s, I began to question some of the theological aspects of Islam, of Catholicism. And on arriving in Dublin, the big city, to work, I began to meet other people whose religions were different, whose worldviews were different. And I happened to meet some Malaysian Muslims who were studying in Dublin at the Royal College of Surgeons. And I liked their cooking. I liked their approach to life. And eventually I began to ask them about what it was that shaped their perspectives on life. And they told me about Islam. I had never heard of Islam.
So you were inquisitive about it and you wanted to know more about it?
Absolutely. Because they were quite unique people.
Yeah.
I could see that they had a really special perspective on life, on their relationships between each other, their studying, their relationships within the family, society, and so on. And so I thought there must be something that's underpinning this particularly unique approach. And I asked them what it was, and they told me it was Islam. I had never heard of Islam
before.
And so, mashallah, after some reading and studying, I bought myself a one-way ticket.
Alhamdulillah. About that, inshallah. Now, what about Sister Sophia? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sophia. I became a Muslim roughly around 17, 18 years ago. Initially, my journey into Islam began when I was studying for my A-levels at college. I remember meeting Muslims and was inquisitive, because at that time in your life when you're young, you know, you're questioning things, you're searching. And I remember one specific event in the college library, and there was a Muslim brother there, and he was reading a newspaper.
Okay.
And for some reason, and I don't know why, I just asked him, after college, what kind of activities do you do? Basically, what do you do in the evening after you've been studying? And I expected him to say, you know, I'd play snooker or I'd go to football or something like that. And he said something which remains with me to this day. That's why I'm mentioning it. He said, after college, I read the Quran.
And you're wondering, what is the Quran?
I'd heard the word Quran and I knew it was a religious book, but to me then it was a very profound statement and it stayed with me all my life. And then, because he was a practicing brother, he got up and he left. He didn't want to obviously engage in too much direct conversation with me.
Yeah.
And that was that, so I was just left wondering. And then there was also all the, you know, small series of events after that. I remember another friend who I got to know at college. She actually showed me a Quran in a box, and I really wanted to pick it up, and she said to me, oh, but you have to be clean, and I wasn't sure what that meant. Obviously, I know now. And so I didn't want to upset her or offend her, so I just left it at that. But I remember
but you really
looking
had
at it in
the
box.
intention then and the urge to take the Quran and
I wanted
get
to
a
look, but I
at it.
didn't want to offend her. So she was sat with it. It was in a box. And then later on, I didn't finish my A-levels, and then moved to Leicester. Went to university, and there I met more Muslims who weren't necessarily practicing Islam, but they knew about Islam, and they could speak about Islam, and I've just found it completely interesting, and it was just a natural cycle, really, in the end. And then I took my Shahada in front of my friend and became a Muslim.
MashaAllah.
I think just after Ramadan.
MashaAllah. We'll get back to that, Sister Sophia, in short, inshallah. Now, Sister Fatma.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Tell us a bit more about yourself, sister.
Myself, I've been a Muslim for longer than I realised.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. My mother told me a story, and I said I have no recollection of it. Apparently, when I was 6 years old, I told her I'm going to be a Muslim one day.
MashaAllah.
But I don't remember that. But she reminded me, and she said I did say that.
So you had it in you since a young age.
I've been curious. I've always been curious about the world I live in. Like Batul, I came from a Catholic background, and I come from a Caribbean community which is very strong in believing in God. So I had those credentials. I believed in God. I had some misguidance, but I did believe that there was a God. I too went to university, and I mixed with Muslims, but they never talked about Al-Islam. In fact, I went to school with Muslims, but they never talked about Al-Islam. But I just knew there was something called the Quran, and it was the holy book of the Muslims, and it was something to be respected. And at the age of 21, I bought a Quran in a book fair, and I remember I brought it home. It's a big Yusuf Ali translation. I remember I bought it home, and I read Surah Al-Fatiha, and I thought, okay. And then I started to read Surah Al-Baqarah, and I was, astaghfirullah, I was bored. And I said, so I wrote in this back of this book, I don't know why I have bought you. One day I hope to read you. And I wrapped it up, and I put it on my bookshelf. And mashallah, 5 years later or something like that, I can't remember now, I took it down and I started to read the Quran, and I took my Shahada by myself.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
So
And you realize whenever you read the Quran, you get to know more about it. Every single time you read, it's a total different thing.
I will give you a little bit about that later, but I did have an experience with the Quran which led me to know that whatever I wanted to know in my life, whatever it was, I would find the answer in Al-Quran.
MashaAllah.
So that's me.
Now, just to inform the audience more, there are 13 of you sisters that came to Oman from the UK. And you all came here with a single goal, to get to know more about Oman and Islam in Oman. I really wanted to know the story behind this. How did you all gather or get to know about this trip? How was it organized in the beginning? How was it coordinated? You know, how did it start? Maybe Sister Batul, you'll be the right person to tell us about this.
Okay. Well, we were very fortunate that Sheikh Badr from the Ministry of Al-Qaf came to visit the Islamic Foundation in Markfield in Leicester. He had been at an interfaith conference, I think, in Cambridge, and thought he'd like to see a little bit more and explore Islam in the UK. And he happened to come to our organisation. One of the people that he knew there, Irshad Baki, took him to my unit. My unit is a unit, it's called the New Muslims Project. And there we've established a range of services for people who are new to Islam.
Yeah.
And he was very interested, obviously, working in the Ministry of Al-Qaf. And he sat down and I explained to him what we were doing and showed him, explained the services that we were providing and so on. And one of the services was an interest in taking converts to Islam from the UK out of the UK, which is a minority Muslim country. Obviously, you know, we live in a majority non-Muslim environment.
Yeah.
And taking them to other predominantly Muslim countries to show them how Islam is lived outside of the UK.
Yeah.
Sometimes Islam in the UK can be a little bit dry and prescriptive because it's determined mostly by the people from the Asian subcontinent who are the majority Muslims in the UK.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to, I don't know, just show converts to Islam that there are many flavors of Islam around the world. You know, most of them you'll see if you go on Hajj.
Yes.
It's like a sort of world congregation of Muslims. And people dress differently, people speak differently, people behave differently, they have different costumes.
Different cultures, different costumes.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I thought it would be lovely for converts to Islam to experience that. It's so special. So at that moment, I think Sheikh Badr and our Director General spoke about the possibility of coming to visit Oman, or a delegation of converts to come, organised by myself at the New Muslim Project. So immediately on hearing that, I set about...
you got excited.
Terribly excited, mashallah. And so I have a newsletter. One of the services that we provide is that we provide a newsletter to about 4,000 converts.
It's a monthly newsletter or weekly or...
Well, it's, shall I say, it's when we have the financial capability to be able to produce it. It was every 3 monthly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, our
depends
resources.
on
it depends on our resources. And sometimes our resources dwindle a little. Yeah. And mashallah, sometimes they're abundant. And so in the newsletter, I put a little note about the possibility of going to Oman and asked for people to express, if they wish to express an interest in coming on the trip, which they did. And I responded by saying that, you know, the trip was in the pipeline. It would be in the process of being organised, but it depended on the Ministry of Awqaf and ourselves, and when was...
The coordination between your centre and the Ministry of Awqaf in Oman.
And so, inshallah, you know, alhamdulillah, the day arrived.
So, Sister Sophia, did you get to know about this program through that ad in the newsletter?
Yeah, my friend works for the New Muslim Project, and she said, can I put your name down for the newsletter? So she wrote my name down, and then I think it was in a month or two after I got the copy, and I read through it, and on the back was the advert for the Oman trip. Yeah. And to me it was like, as soon as I saw the word Oman, I thought, right, I'm going to write the email address, and then I actually applied straight away. That was about 2 years ago, because I've always wanted to come to Oman.
MashaAllah, mashallah. What about Sister Fatma?
I'm a little bit different in that I got to know about the trip in the last 4 months, I think it was, through an email that Sister Batul sent to participants in another conference. And like Sister Sophia, I've always wanted to go to Oman. I've always wanted to visit Muslim countries and see how Islam is lived in a Muslim land.
Yeah.
You know, that's so important for a convert, or I should say a revert, sorry. It's so important because we don't get to experience the, if you like, the relaxed side of just being a normal Muslim in a normal Muslim environment.
Now, sisters, both of you have indicated that you got excited when you saw Oman. Did you know anything about Oman previously? Did you have a friend from Oman?
No.
Did you hear anything in particular that made you get excited about Oman, or is it just the journey?
I think it's not just the journey. As I said before, I did some searching on the internet, and I came across Oman about a few years back, and I remember looking at this country and thinking, wow, I'd really like to go and see. I mean, maybe from a tourist point of view at the time, but I'd really like to go and see Oman. But, you know, mashallah, nothing happens before its time. So when it came up as an opportunity, I also told another sister who's on the trip as well, and she said, please, we've got to go. I said, mashallah, I'll talk to Batul and see if there's any places left. So I kept on emailing her, is there any places, and she said, mashallah, in the end, yes.
Mashallah,
so another sister came with me, and mashallah, it is more than we expected, because we didn't have an expectation.
That's what I was going to about to ask you. Do you have any expectation before coming to Oman? maybe you saw in the media different regions of the Arab world or different countries of the Arab world. But most of the people who visit Oman find out that Oman is totally different than all the Arab countries and the Islamic countries.
I would say that's been my, not surprise, but that's what's, I didn't know about certain things around the Ibadah. I didn't know because we're so overwhelmed in the UK by a particular way. I didn't understand. Actually, there's different ways. So Oman has been a real revelation to me.
MashaAllah.
And I really want to find out more about it, actually.
MashaAllah.
For me, I've always wanted to come to Oman, not through knowing lots about Oman, but just knowing that it was different and quite perhaps in a exotic quite in an exotic way. But I have watched documentaries about Oman. I watched one about the history of frankincense, and also a children's programme in Britain called Blue Peter, where they actually came to Oman and they did a tour and they visited different sites, and they actually went to a school for the gifted and talented, where the school just teaches children who are highly mathematical. I don't know what the school's called, but I found it very impressive.
Math Genius. It's called Math Genius. It's a special school for kids where they're trained to do mathematical calculations without using a calculator.
I watched that, and they were doing calculations to 10 decimal places. So I thought, wow, the Omanis are intelligent. And so since coming here, it's just completely blown me away. I'm just in awe of Oman. I think it's a diamond in the Arabian Peninsula. I'm just, just so overwhelmed.
We're honestly, we're honoured to hear this from you, and we hoped so much that you would stay longer and get to see more of Oman. I was shocked the other day. I was talking to Brother Badr, and I asked him to show me the timetable for all the places that you're going to visit, and it was packed. It was full. And I thought that if I could have a bit of more time with you sisters, to take you around and to get and meet people and get to know the country better. But maybe inshallah next time you come and visit Oman, we'll have more time.
Inshallah. Well, thank you for providing us with this opportunity to speak to the Omani people and to talk about how much we're enjoying the visit here. First, just please let me say how privileged we feel. Really, we do feel very privileged to have been invited here, and I would like to thank the Ministry for Awqaf for their huge generosity in supporting us coming here and sponsoring our trip, and to Sheikh Badr for coordinating it with myself and getting here. But I have been to Saudi Arabia on many times. I've taken groups of converts on Hajj, and I travel with an organisation, a tour operator in the UK, on Hajj every year, and as a female guide for his group, the group of women for the Hajj. And so my experiences of Saudi Arabia are, very wide and varied in that respect. And I've also travelled to Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Al Ain and places like that. And so, I was wondering what Oman was going to be like.
Maybe you thought it's going to be the same as...
there's quite a vast difference between Saudi Arabia and the Emirates.
And the Emirates,
Yes. Yeah. So I wondered where Oman was going to fall in relation to those. But I'm really, really surprised. I'm overawed, actually. It's a beautiful country. And I'm not just saying that because we're visiting here. I really, there's so many things I have found about it. For instance, when I was coming in and out to the airport, I noticed that the skyline was not punctuated by tall buildings and skyscrapers.
Yes, you're right.
But by minarets.
Yeah.
And I realized that there must be some restriction on the heights of the building.
Yes, there is a restriction.
Right.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And I think that is an incredibly wise and the forethought behind that is really quite incredible, because also I noticed that in relation to Saudi Arabia and other Emirate countries, there are no billboards, there are no advertisements. So the materialistic commercial world doesn't seem to be sort of hitting you in the face at every moment. And God knows, we have enough of that through advertisements on the TV and everything.
By living in Oman, we have not noticed the significance of missing these things.
But this is very unique.
It's really an eye-opener, yeah.
Yes, and I really hope that the country stays like this and it maintains that response and that perspective, because it really does. You notice it immediately.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So far, where have you been? I think the guys in the Ministry of Awqaf have been keeping you so busy, taking you around. So I was hoping that you would tell us a bit about the places that you visited so far.
Well, yesterday we went to Al Huta Cave.
Al Huta Cave.
Yeah, and that was really, really interesting. It's actually very similar to a cave which is near where I live in Derbyshire, called the Tree Cliff Caverns, which is also a limestone cavern, which is really unusual. And what was interesting about it is that it's only been discovered, the guide said, since 1960. And that the actual first lake that you see leads on to another 90%, which has not even been researched or discovered yet, because it's not linked by land. You have to go swim under the water, and then get to the other side. So it was really interesting just to see some of Oman's history.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I love Jabreen Fort.
Jabreen Fort.
Oh,
okay. Tell us about Jabreen Fort.
What I loved about Jabreen Fort, it was built for human beings to live in.
Yeah.
It's not closed in, and it's clean and it's spacious, and I can imagine the Imam living there back then, and the guide that we had was superb. He really brought the fort alive for us and made us feel almost that we'd gone back in time.
So he told you a bit about history,
he told us about the history,
fort, about the people who lived in the fort.
Yes, and also took us to the room, so we saw where the Imam slept, we saw his private quarters, we saw the library, the school rooms.
What about the architectural work of the fort?
MashaAllah, we took endless pictures, especially the ceilings.
MashaAllah.
All the Islamic calligraphy and the woodwork.
MashaAllah. But I was like, I could have just stayed there. And it was so peaceful. I know there's not people living there, but I could imagine it was quite a peaceful place.
And you would find different types of forts around Oman. In every region almost you'll find a fort with a different structure, with a different location, strategic location.
The really impressive thing is that Oman is looking after its cultural heritage.
Yes.
And that is absolutely vital, because the cultural heritage of the Muslims is so important to us as converts to Islam. Because we've come into Islam without any appreciation, really, of that cultural heritage, historical background, all of these things, because it's not something that we, are taught in schools and so on. And so to be able to come out to countries like Oman and other Muslim countries, like we have visited Turkey, and also, huge Ottoman history there, is really inspirational for us. And of course, it becomes part of who we are now as Muslims.
Definitely.
And it's very important that these kind of cultural places are preserved for us and for you and for the generations to come.
And I think, most importantly is the generation to come.
Exactly.
Because I think we're in a bit of crisis, identity crisis, where the new generation are a bit lost, and we need to remind them, get them back to where we belong.
Exactly, because if we don't know who we were, we don't know who we are, and we don't know what we ought to be in the future.
Definitely.
So that is really fantastic, and I really congratulate the Ministry for Cultural Affairs
for taking care
of those, and for refurbishing all of these places and looking after them and preserving them for us and for.
I think Oman is developing in terms of human resources and technology, but at the same time they keep on preserving the heritage and the culture, so that there is no a dramatic change in the way the people live, the lifestyle.
Exactly.
So people also need to link back to their heritage.
Absolutely. And, well, we had a reception. We met some of the senior officials at the Ministry for Aqaf. His Excellency Secretary General, and we also met His Eminence the Grand Mufti, which was such a joy.
Mashallah.
Really. We could have spent hours listening to His Excellency the Secretary General talking about Oman, talking about the history, telling us about various different aspects of life and culture and so on in Oman. So that was wonderful. And then, mashallah, you know, we were really privileged that His Eminence the Grand Mufti took time out of his busy schedule to meet us.
Mashallah.
And believe me, we kept him very busy.
Mashallah, you asked him a lot of questions.
Yes, because we knew from the day before that we were going to meet him. And so many of us, Fatima and Sophia, even though Sophia arrived quite late that morning because she only flew in on the second morning, you know, launched immediately into questions. So I think he was kept extremely busy. And I hope that the questions we asked were significant, you know.
And how did you find him as a person?
Wonderful, mashallah. Such a sweet person.
Yeah, we were in awe. We just sat there. You could see all of our faces. We were just sitting there.
Mashallah.
This beautiful man who was talking about Islam as if it was so normal and gentle. I can't describe it really. We are still talking about him.
Mashallah.
We're still talking, and I can only echo what Batul said. We felt really privileged to have met this man, and he took time out for us, mashallah. And again, that's an experience that we don't necessarily have in the UK, but we have access to a religious teacher of that level. So all well to our Oman.
Mashallah.
Really, thank you very much for allowing us.
It's an honor to us. It's an honor to have you.
And we have had the honor of being invited to dinner in his home.
Oh, mashallah.
So we're really looking forward to that. And actually, this is on the last night before we leave.
Before you leave.
What a huge, you know, sort of accolade, you know, to be able to go and have dinner.
I'm sure you're going to enjoy dinner at the Grand Mufti's house, and I hope you take the best of it.
Inshallah. The other, one of the other visits that we had today, which was really quite unique, was a visit to the Sultan Qaboos University.
Mashallah.
Which really was spectacular. I have to say. It was so beautiful.
Neat and tidy and fresh.
An amazing university built with, you know, a vision in the future. You know, it really is a very modern, unique place.
And did you get an opportunity to go around some of the colleges in the university?
Well, we visited the religious studies department, and the library there, and the ladies' area where they study as well. And then we were taken to the library, big library.
The big library,
yes,
the central library.
Yes, in the university. Mashallah, what a fantastic library. I mean, it's a futuristic library. It's a futuristic college.
Mashallah.
You know, it's built for the future. And one of the things, obviously, you know, apart from appreciating the academic prowess of the college and all the different departments and everything that has gone into the college, one of the things that I really thought was fantastic and we must say thank you to all of the men dressed in orange and blue all around the city, who look after the cleanliness, the shrubbery, the landscape, the trees.
Actually, Sister Batul, you said something very important, and I think from time to time people need to stop and recognize the efforts of others.
Yes.
Because these people spend most of their time keeping the country tidy and making sure everything's in place, and they're putting a lot of effort, and the least that we can do is stop and say thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, because there are no billboards and other sort of things to take your distraction away from, you know, from what's going on around you, you do see all of the greenery, and it's just beautiful. And you appreciate the work of these people in keeping it that way.
Now, Sister Fatma, I wanted you to give a piece of advice to the next generation as you have visited the Sultan Qaboos University and you have seen how it is. What can you tell the next generation? Because they are privileged to get these facilities, but maybe some would not appreciate the efforts put by the government to build such. So what would you like to say to the next generation?
I've been to, I think, 5 universities in the UK over the years, and I must admit, I walked into that university and I thought I wanted to stay. Two of us were saying, is there any way we could, become foreign students and stay at this place?
Yeah.
It's stunning, and I think they should really appreciate the effort and the seamlessness of the service that is being delivered to them, because really education is a privilege, and Oman has made it possible for its people to get educated without being necessarily overwhelmed by the world. In other words, you're using the technology, but to the benefit of the knowledge of Oman and the culture. And so your blend, the other thing I loved about it was that the blend of religiousness, i.e. the mosques, the ability to pray, to think, to be religious and study
at the same time.
At the same time, and there's no conflict in doing that, because I think, again, some people have the impression that there's a conflict between religious studying and religious life and the modern world and the sciences, etc., etc. And your university has really brought those two together.
Yeah.
And mashallah, I tell you, I actually at one point said, well, just leave me here. Just leave me here. Can we get here knowledge anyway?
You're most welcome to stay.
Mashallah. No, I think they're really privileged, and they should take the opportunity, because there are people in this world who are crying for education, particularly in poor countries where they don't have that. And Oman is blessed to have it. So, mashallah, I hope to see lots and lots and lots of graduates, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, Safiya, I believe that today you had a special visit, all of you, to the Grand Mosque, the Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque in Al-Ghubra. What did you think of that experience?
Well, again, another overwhelming, mashallah, experience. And what warmed my heart was to see not only the beautiful architecture and the time and the diligence to build such a beautiful, epic mosque, but the work that the sisters and brothers are doing to spread Islam through the Dawah Centre, direct Dawah Centre inside the masjid. We have
the Islamic Information Centre.
And the sisters explained to us that on the previous day, 18 Filipino ladies had visited Oman and had visited the masjid and had actually taken their shahada later on that day. And I think they were overwhelmed by that experience too, and hopefully, inshallah, the mosque will be able to do more and more dawah and help teach more and more non-Muslims about Islam, and through the Omani culture as well.
Inshallah. It's a pity that today you didn't have much time to go around the mosque. But I heard from Sister Batul that tomorrow you have a special visit to the mosque again to get a proper tour inside the mosque. So are you excited about this?
The mosque itself is beautiful. I mean, the architecture and the fact that it's got many different levels and it's so vast. Just to stand and look really is enough without doing anything else.
Mashallah, I walked into that mosque and there's only been 2 other mosques that I've cried. I was looking at, especially I was looking up, and I just felt those tears come. I hadn't planned it. I was just crying at how beautiful it was. And there's only 2 other places in Saudi Arabia that have had that effect on me. So, mashallah, I thought it was stunning.
But did you get an opportunity to go inside the mosque today?
Just very briefly. And I'm afraid once we were in, I think the brothers it was just closing.
It was just closing.
But we were so overwhelmed by what we saw that they were telling us to go, but we were
But I hope tomorrow, inshallah, it's going to be a proper tour, and you're going to have enough time to reflect on the mosque from the inside. You're going to feel
I did feel it, brother,
tranquility in the mosque, and
it was beautiful,
and
really.
The beauty of the mosque, and inshallah it's going to be a special experience.
I think we're all looking forward to going to the mosque.
What about the number of tourists coming in the morning? When you went in the morning, was it packed with the tourists?
Well, I wouldn't say it was packed, but there was a steady stream of tourists coming in and out, and actually that was, Sophia just referred to it about the Islamic Information Center.
Yeah.
When we entered the center, one of the sisters was speaking to 4 or 5 people who were there visiting the mosque from Germany, and it was really lovely because she was explaining the prayer and the process of making wudu and what that means in terms of the purification of the body and the mind before one goes into the exercise of the prayer. It was really lovely, and she was explaining it so beautifully to them. I can't imagine that they were not moved by that. And she then said, you are very lucky today because we have 13 visitors from the UK who chose to become Muslims themselves. So if there's anything you'd like to ask them, please go ahead. So we had a little dialogue ourselves with them. And really, sometimes back in the UK and in European countries, when people ask questions about Islam, they tend to ask them in a kind of very aggressive kind of manner because they're aggrieved by something they've read in the newspapers or heard on the media about Islam, or maybe even experienced from some Muslims who have been rude or unhelpful or so on.
Yeah.
But when they're visiting a Muslim country, and particularly in such a beautiful place, the questions are much more gentle. They are much more modest in the way they ask the questions, and I think the way they receive the responses is much different as well. It affects them being in this place. So I think it's lovely to have that facility there, and I'm delighted that they're taking advantage of the numbers of tourists that are coming in and the facility to be able to explain to them aspects of Islam.
Sister Batul, I would like you to emphasize to the audience the importance of having an Islamic center, especially in particular in that location of the Grand Mosque. How important is to have the Dawah Center or the Islamic Information Center there?
I think it's absolutely vital because, on the one hand, you have people coming to visit this beautiful
architectural
work, and, obviously it is unique. And looking at the beauty of the inside of the mosque, you are reminded that Allah Jamilun wa yuhibbu Jamal, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. And of course, the Sultan, may Allah bless him in his wisdom and in all his work that he has done here in Oman, has built something that praises Allah through the beauty that has been put into the architecture and the tiling and so on around the mosque. And these people will come to see that, and they will take some of that away with them. But it's not enough, and we should be able to have something there, some facility there, to be able to allow them to ask questions about Islam, everything they wanted to ask about Islam, but were always too afraid.
So that was this is an opportunity for them, an open invitation to ask questions,
to sit
to
and
get
have some
clarifications
dates
about misconceptions and things like that.
Yes,
absolutely.
It provides a holistic service for anyone coming, not only the Muslims but non-Muslims. So as a Muslim, the masjid is functional. You can go, you can do your 5 daily prayers as a man or a woman, because there's both facilities. If you're not a Muslim and you come as a tourist, you can look at the architecture and you can learn about the deen from Muslims who can give excellent dawah, and you can actually even take books away as well. So the mosque is providing a holistic service. There's something there for everyone. That's really important. Not that the masjid becomes like other buildings of worship, say for example a church or anything else, where sometimes those things don't happen. It's providing a universal service, and that's really important. So that non-Muslims, that itself is an act of dawah to non-Muslims.
Well, actually, it's in line with the tradition of your Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because if you think about the early days in Medina, that's what that gathering place was. It was a place of worship for Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, but also to deliver the message of Al-Islam and to show that there is no difference between the two. So a mosque should be taken in the context of what it is. It's part of the Islamic way of life. And those tourists need to understand that. And I think you're right, Batul, they're really curious because the building is beautiful, and it does lead to questions of why have these people done this? What's the significance of it? And the Dawah Centre confirms that, and actually and the sisters that we saw today, mashallah, their delivery was so perfect. It was really the Surat al-Mustaqim, very in middle. So it wasn't extremes. It wasn't asking people to become Muslims. It was simply explaining to them why we do what we do and the context. And mashallah, I think they went away with a less anger maybe in their hearts than when they had arrived. I don't know.
MashaAllah. Sister Batul, being a revert from Christianity, what do you feel that Islam has added to your life?
Subhanallah. I feel that when I became a Muslim first, the Muslims often used to say to me that now I'm a Muslim, this is a new part of my life, it has nothing to do with the old part of my life, and so on and so forth. But I feel that, I was brought up as a Catholic, and my family were extremely good religious people. They brought us all up, 10 children. Obviously, they had very little to rely on except
a big
God.
family, mashallah.
Yes. So we prayed together, we went to church together, and my parents were extremely good, honest, decent people, religious people. But obviously, I myself found that something was lacking there. And when I began to explore the theology of Christianity, the cracks began to appear, and I couldn't quite ignore them. I had to realize that it wasn't for me, because I felt I had to accept, everything had to be acceptable. Everything had to sit comfortably in my heart in order to be able to practice a religion that was going to shape my perspectives in life and guide me right throughout my life and through my married life and my children's lives and my family life and so on. So I had to start searching. I had to look for something else. And subhanallah, I found Islam. And that's what Islam has given me. It has given me that tranquility, that peace and comfort in the heart, to be a whole person, one who is completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no matter what I do, as long as it is within the confines of Allah's framework, it is part of my worship.
Yes.
And so that is so significant, that everything I do, my thoughts, my actions, my work, my dawah, my, raising my family, my everything is part of Islam.
MashaAllah.
And so, it brings value to absolutely everything I do in my life, as long as I do it within the confines that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid out for me.
Subhanallah. Sister Fatma, what is Islam added to your life?
Everything. It's the short answer. It has confirmed the truth for me. That I, for a long time, since I was a young girl, knew the world was a big place.
Yeah.
So I didn't just grow up believing what my family told me or what I saw in my street or in my school. I knew the world was a big place and there was something out there. And I can remember as a young woman, I believed in God quite strongly. But I was like Batul, I had questions, perhaps at a very early age, maybe about 10. I questioned the religion that my parents had brought me up in. And I knew there was something else, but I didn't know what it was, as I said. But Islam happened to me at a time, I took Shahada at a time in my life when I wasn't looking for religion. I'd been someone who had studied a lot, and I felt it was now time to play. So I was getting ready to play, to be a girl about town and go
enjoy
out,
yourself.
enjoy myself, so to speak. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had other plans for me.
MashaAllah.
So, as I said, I'd brought this book when I was a young woman. I hadn't read it. And for some reason, I picked it up. And I started to read one passage, I think. It was one argument. And I said to myself, oh my God, I can't say it's not true. And the moment I said I can't say it's not true, I knew I would have to follow it.
Subhanallah.
And that's what happened.
Didn't you have the fear to follow something that you didn't know?
No.
That you don't have a background of it?
No, it's very...
Was it so a comforting experience?
I can't explain it, brother, other than to say that when I saw the truth, I recognized it as the truth. Because as I just said, I wasn't looking to be a Muslim at the time I took my Shahada. So when it came to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it such that I couldn't say no. And because I couldn't say no, I knew what it would mean. It would mean that I would be different now from my family, from the community that I come from, because they're not, on the majority are not Muslim. I knew that I would be on my own in this way, but this was a journey that I had to make. I couldn't say no. I couldn't deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And you are ready to take the challenge. The difficulties and obstacles that will come after your choice.
I had fears about how my family would be, but I also knew that they would understand the sincerity of my conversion, that it wasn't a political thing or it wasn't a fashionable thing, that something had happened to me, and I shared it with them. And I've always shared Islam with my family, and mashallah, one of my brothers is a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah.
Through his own, but he is a Muslim. But for me, Islam has brought me self-realization. I can leave this world knowing two things. I can know who my God is, who my Prophet is, and that I'm a human being. And Allah has given me that. MashaAllah.
Sister Sophia, when you hear the word Islam, what does it mean to you?
When I hear the word Islam, it makes me fully understand the true essence of my existence and the purpose of my life, why I'm here, how I should live my life, and what the event after this life, after death. So it gives me a whole sense of reverence, knowing that I'm a small part of a larger master plan, and it's not something that worries me or frightens me in any way. It just gives me comfort, and it gives me an identity, and it makes me feel happy. It makes me feel strong. Lots and lots of positives.
Alhamdulillah.
I think one of the things I think is important to stress is that when people come to Islam, particularly in the UK, in Europe and America, they are met with some really difficult challenges. Some come from their families, where they may be rejected, where there may be some antagonism, where there may be some, challenges in terms of relationships continuing or breaking down and so on.
Yeah.
On the other hand, sometimes people convert to Islam and it's good, and the families accept and respect what's happened, and the relationship can be enhanced by the conversion.
Do you think because you turn up to be a better person?
Yes, I think sometimes it can be like that. But I find in my work in the New Muslims Project that really when people convert to Islam, that's where the work really begins. And I think, for people always ask me, do you do dawah? Do you make dawah? Do you? I don't actually. I don't go out and sort of preach or proselytize about Islam. And sometimes I say to people, because I'm so upset about the lack of support for people who convert to Islam in the UK, I say to them, talk is cheap.
Yes.
Anyone can talk. We can all talk. And as Muslims, I think you and I know that Muslims can talk forever.
Forever.
Yes. About Islam, about, whatever. But, it's about your commitment to the people who have listened to the message and taken it on board and accepted it. What is your commitment to them? Are you going to put your hand in your pocket and provide the necessary services for those people who have committed to the faith? And those services are very broad-ranging, from education within Islam, also to supporting, helping, counselling, advising, helping them with the difficulties they may have with their families. And I often say to people, they say, oh, my parents are really upset with me becoming Muslim. Well, given what we hear about Islam on the media, are you surprised that your parents are upset? Of course they're upset. You're their child. they brought you up, they fed you, they educated you, nurtured you.
That's a natural reaction.
Exactly. So be patient with them, be gentle with them, you know. Irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira, you know. Allah lowered the wing of your mercy to them as they lowered it to me when I was a child. So be patient with them, you know, be careful about them, be kind to them, be generous towards them. But don't be surprised that they're upset. Because, you know, sometimes for parents who bring their children up, they have dreams about what's going to happen. So you become a Muslim, suddenly those dreams are
disappear,
shattered, you know, in some way.
Yeah.
But you can revive those dreams for them in a good way, inshallah. So really, it's about the services that we can provide and about really committing ourselves to people and helping them and supporting them when they do accept.
Sister Batul, you mentioned two important points. One is about giving dawah, and I think people don't understand, they keep on emphasizing about dawah, but I think your conduct is the best dawah that you can do. The way you behave is the best thing that you can do.
Absolutely.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, most of the time people responded to his message because of his conduct, and this is the most important dawah that you could do.
Absolutely.
And it's within your capabilities.
Yes.
And the other thing that you mentioned is about taking care of new Muslims. I think we need to emphasize more on this, because people normally, they pressure non-Muslims to take the Shahada. But what comes after the Shahada? After declaring becoming a Muslim, what comes after that? The responsibility that you should take in taking care of these people, supporting them mentally, physically and financially.
Yes.
This is where the work starts.
It's like inviting somebody to your home for dinner, and you don't even have the foundations built for your house.
It's true.
So you're inviting them to something, and you're dealing with the initial invitation. You have offered it, they have accepted it, but you have nothing to offer them after that. And this is crucial. I mean, the work really starts when the person has made their shahada. So your support is absolutely vital to them. And in England, you know, the huge sorrow is that we have some people coming to Islam and leaving because we are not providing the support. And also, how many people are out there who have looked into Islam, read about Islam, but, you know, because they have seen the mosques doors closed, they have the response that they've received maybe from somebody as part of the community has been negative, they've just walked away. So we really have to question ourselves about our dawah.
Well, inshallah, we're hoping, I think, with a new community, because I really take what you're saying, Batul, and I think about my own and the situation that we're in. We're a minority within a minority. And yes, people are glad at the start, you take your shahada, and then there's the thing we don't have is we don't have any Muslim cultural baggage. So we're like newborn babes coming into Al-Islam. We're fresh, we don't carry any traditions with us about it. And so in a way, we're in a unique position, but unfortunately there's not a long enough time gone by in terms of building a community. So it can be very isolating to be a new Muslim in the UK, or especially, our experiences of the new UK, it can be very isolating, particularly around things like Eid, and Ramadan and families, and also the kind of cultural support that you have. You have a Ministry of Religious Affairs, you have Islam built into the fabric of what you do, but we don't have that. We're living in a non-Muslim country, and even in the Muslim communities, of which there are 2 million Muslims in the UK, and in the community I come from, I think we are the largest revert community. I believe we are Caribbeans, but again, it's like we take Shahada, we want Allah, we want Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then there's no place to go after that.
And I think this program of breaching and coming towards the Islamic world, and you know, trying to experience the way Muslims live in their countries. And born Muslim can go back to countries like the UK and mingle with the people and get to know them and support them, especially in occasions and things like that. I think this will help a lot.
Mashallah, but you asked that question of us. Why Oman? Well, I've been very impressed with Oman, but I don't want it to just stop with me. Because I've seen the dawah that's gone on here. I've seen the Islam a little bit. I must admit, it's only been a few days, but I kept on thinking. I wish other Muslims in the UK knew about a place like this and the way of life that could be as a Muslim, and how do we get that dawah going between Oman and where we are? That would be that's my question, really.
SubhanAllah. Sister Sophia, I wanted to ask you the element of people in Oman. What do you think about the people of Oman? I don't know how much you have been exposed to the people here, but tell us a bit about it.
I think the environment and the atmosphere of Oman, you see it in the characteristics of the people. The Omanis that I've met are very mellow, very polite. They've embraced us. They've been generous towards us, and you know, we've been given such a privilege and been treated so well. I'm just 110% impressed and totally in love with Oman and the Omanis.
We're all been talking about how can we come and live here.
Why do we have to go home?
You're most welcome to come and live here.
We have to go home because that's where Allah put us. And, you know, we are there for a reason. We are there because of His wisdom. And mashallah, you know, Islam has to penetrate all borders, all frontiers, and it's part of our life and part of our job.
But Sister Batul, once you go back, what is the message that you're going to carry to the people of the UK about Oman and about Islam?
I think we have all been incredibly inspired since we came here about Oman. I think, as the sisters have said, the lifestyle, what we have seen, although we haven't met many of the people so far, but certainly the tranquility that enwraps you when you come into Oman is tantamount to the people who live here. And I really feel that, you know, you have a very beautiful country. You have an incredible system here, which has been thought out very carefully. And that system costs. It costs. And the cost of that system is that every man, woman and child has to support that and work for it and, you know, be invigorated by it. And inshallah, I hope it continues. And I wish Oman the greatest of blessings and barakah for what you're doing. And I hope you will remain and keep the country as it is, and that you won't compete for lofty towers like the
Inshallah not.
All these places, Petronas Towers and all these places, but you will keep the simplicity and the sort of, you can see that while there's a lack of materialism and commercialism in the overall sort of country, you know, what you see in the country, you can still see that there's progress, there's development, there's, you know, the best of everything.
Yeah.
So,
honestly, I didn't want to have this interview today. I wanted to have it after today, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. The main reason is that tonight you're invited for a special dinner with local women.
Indeed.
And this could have been a very good opportunity to experience the Omani culture and the Omani hospitality. But as that the dinner is today and we've done the interview, so maybe later on you could tell us about tonight's experience. And I want to wish you a pleasant evening tonight with the Omani women. Before I end today's interview, I would like a piece of advice from each one of you. So we're going to start with Sister Batul. Give us advice for the next generation, and Sister Sophia is going to give us an advice for the Muslims here, and Sister Fatima is going to give us advice on the country, what to sustain and what things that needs to be developed. So we're going to start with you, Sister Batul.
Well, as I said, you know, the country, mashallah, you can see that there has been a great deal of work and wisdom and inspiration put into the development of different aspects of life here in Oman. I think it would be fantastic if you can continue that. It as I said, it enwraps you with tranquility, and I think if you can continue that, but actually it means that everybody has to buy into that and maintain it and be proud of it and look after it and do all the things that they must do, like get a good education, study their Islam, get the knowledge and all the rest, to be able to do that. And I think as long as the Omanis can do that. By the way, I've seen a lovely advertisement about visiting Oman, a holiday advertisement. I've never seen it except here in Oman. I think it's something that we should see on the BBC and ITV and Channel 4, and it should be advertised throughout the Europe and the UK.
I think I hope that the officials would hear this, and inshallah they will take note of it and implement it inshallah in the future.
The one other thing that we were talking about, myself and Sophia coming back today, was we were asking whether solar power has been invested in here in Oman.
In Oman, I think there are some areas that solar power is in place. They have implemented it, but I think we need to work more on this, preserving this energy and utilizing it more. Of
course, it's a huge energy that you can tap into, and not only can you use it for your own country, but you could actually store it and make it available elsewhere, and it could be a commercial thing for you. Myself and Sister Sophia said we thought that we had come up with this fantastic idea for Oman, and we were happy to share in the profits actually, if that was possible. But obviously it's been thought about already. So that's that one gone out the window.
We'll put a word, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
It certainly design them, though. Make them.
It certainly would help the New Muslim Project resources. I'd be able to produce Meeting Point regularly then. So
inshallah.
Every week.
Inshallah. Sister Sophia.
I think my advice really to the young Omanis is to invest in education, to learn and practice your deen, and just really appreciate the fact that you live in such a wonderful and I think quite a unique country, Muslim country, and appreciate it.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. The thing is, Sister Sophia, as we spoke earlier, the identity crisis that all the young generation wants to be like the West. They want to walk like them and talk like them and dress like them. Okay, it's something good. It's part of development and growing up. But I think we should always remember where we come from and the importance of our heritage and culture and religion.
And Islam encourages balance.
Yeah.
We can't take from the West and forget about our own heritage and culture.
Yeah.
We can take what's good and we can, use that to improve our situation here and to educate ourselves and so on and so forth. But we must always be balanced in our approach to these things.
Inshallah. Sister Fatima, any last words?
For future generations, did you say? I would say protect what you have. And in Oman, yes, the West for young people is exciting. So it's your job to make Islam exciting for them here, and to understand that what they have is a uniqueness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with, and not to let go of it by looking at things that, frankly, if you look at the glitter of the West, you only have to pull the curtain back to understand that these people are unhappy, whereas Omanis are happy because of what they have in Al-Islam and the balance that they've achieved between modernity and Islam. Once you start moving away from that, you are in danger, because you start glorifying something that actually has no foundation. You have a foundation in Oman.
So, Sister Fatma, do you promise us that when you go back to the UK, you'll give a good word about Oman?
Absolutely, we all will. I think we all will. The thing is, we will be desperately working out how can we...
We want you to be ambassadors of Oman in the UK.
Mashallah.
We want to be.
Inshallah, we want to invite people to come to a lovely country and find out more about Oman.
We want to say to people, there is another... we didn't talk about it so much because there's no time, but in the UK there's a particular schools of thought that operate, and the Omani school of thought is unknown to us.
Subhanallah.
Unknown, and it really needs. I really want you to do dawah in the UK so that especially amongst the revert community can understand there are alternative perspectives to Islam and not just this one way, and actually people can be happy in Islam.
Subhanallah.
So mashallah, it's had a big impact on all of us.
One of the things when you talked about the young people, one of the things that we haven't done in the UK with our young people, particularly our young Muslims, is we haven't listened to them. We haven't allowed them to speak. We haven't allowed them to express themselves, and we certainly haven't listened to them. And when you don't listen, you shut voices down. And when you shut voices down, they will find alternative methods of listening and hearing.
Absolutely. Right.
So I really would encourage everybody and people who work with the religious ministry and so on and so forth, and the different, fields of education and socialization here in Oman, to listen to the young people, to engage them in dialogue, to make them feel that they are part of the society and that they have so much to give. They are the future.
Yes.
So we must listen, and we must, take part in dialogue with them, and they have fantastic ideas.
MashaAllah.
They're not always as crazy as we think they are. We should give them, credit for their intelligence.
Subhanallah.
They're an amazing young people.
Inshallah. One last question for all of you. Are you willing to come back to Oman?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Naam. Yes.
Okay, Sister Batul, Sister Sophia, Sister Fatma from the UK, and the other 10 women that we could not accommodate in the studio. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we are honored to have you in Oman, and we're looking forward to see you back with your families and friends to come and visit Oman, and I hope you enjoy your stay in Oman and have a pleasant evening, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host, Hatib Al-Absalam.